Sorry, it became a break there, smack into the summary. And I was just mentioning that in regular psychology and all other subjects, with the exception of physics, until recently, the preferred mode of understanding has been that one of the left hemisphere. And how that rids the world of its liveliness, of its movement, because the left hemisphere has no movement. It's stillness, Zenon's paradox, if you like. I will continue with the book The World of Perception by Merleau-Ponty, exploring the world of perception, sensory objects, and we are now at page 59 in this small booklet. This is the first time it's extraordinary convenient size of the literature. Let us now turn from our examination of space to the objects which fill that space. If we consult a classical psychology textbook, it will tell us that an object is a system of properties which present themselves to our various senses and which are united by an act of intellectual synthesis. For example, this lemon is a bulging oval shape with two ends plus this yellow color plus this fresh feel plus this acidic taste. This analysis, however, is far from satisfactory. It is not clear how each of these qualities or properties is bound to the others, and yet it seems to us that the lemon is a unified entity of which all these various qualities are merely different manifestations. The unity of the object will remain a mystery for as long as we think of its various qualities. Its color and taste, for example, as just so many data belonging to the entirely distinct worlds of sight, smell, touch, and so on. Yet modern psychology, following Goethe's lead, has observed that rather than being absolutely separate, each of these qualities has an effective meaning which establishes a correspondence between it and the qualities associated with the other senses. For example, anyone who has had to choose carpets for a flat will know that a particular mood emanates from each color. Making it sad or happy. Depressing or fortifying. Because the same is true of sounds and tactile data, it may be said that each color is the equivalent of a particular sound or temperature. This is why some blind people manage to picture a color when it is described by way of an analogy with, for example, a sound. provided that we restore a particular quality to its place in human experience, the place which gives it a certain emotional meaning. We can begin to understand its relationship to other qualities which have nothing in common with it. Indeed, our experience contains numerous qualities that would be almost devoid of meaning if considered separately from the reactions they provoke in our bodies. This is the case with the quality of being honeyed. Honey is a slow-moving liquid. While it undoubtedly has certain consistency and allows itself to be grasped, it soon creeps slyly from the fingers and returns to where it started from. It comes apart as soon as it has been given a particular shape. And what is more, it reverses the roles by grasping the hands of whoever would take hold of it. The living, exploring hand which thought it could master this thing, instead discovers that it is embroiled in a sticky external object. Sartre, who must take the credit for this elegant analysis, writes, in one sense, it is like supreme docility of the possessed. the fidelity of a dog who gives himself even when one does not want him any longer. And in another sense, there is underneath this docility as surreptitious appropriation of the possessor by the possessed. So the quality of being honeyed and this is why this epithet can be used to symbolize an entire pattern of human behavior. Can only be understood in the light of the dialogue between me as an embodied subject and the external object which bears this quality. The only definition of this quality is a human definition. Viewed in this way, every quality is related to qualities associated with other senses. Honey is sugary. Yet sugariness in the realm of taste and indelible softness that lingers in the mouth for an indefinite duration that survives swallowing. Survives swallowing, how aptly put. Constitutes the same sticky presence as honey in the realm of touch. To say that honey is viscous is another way of saying that it is sugary. It is to describe a particular relationship between us and the object, or to indicate that we are moved or compelled to treat it in a certain way. Or that it has a particular way of seducing, attracting, or fascinating the free subject who stands before us. Honey is a particular way the world has of acting on me and my body. And this is why its various attributes do not simply stand side by side, but are identical insofar as they all reveal the same way of being or behaving on the part of the honey. The unity of the object does not lie behind its qualities, but is reaffirmed by each one of them. Each of its qualities is the whole. Cézanne said that you should be able to paint the smell of trees. In a similar vein, Sartre writes in Being in Nothingness that each attribute reveals the being of the objects. Put my jacket on again. It's a mixture of warm and cold here. And now there's a tree blocking the sun for a while. Sartre in Being and Nothingness, quote, "The lemon is extended throughout its qualities, and each of its qualities is extended throughout each of the others. It is the sourness of the lemon which is yellow. It is the yellow of the lemon which is sour. We eat the color of a cake. And the taste of this cake and the taste of this cake is the instrument which reveals its shape and its color to what may be called the alimentary intuition. The fluidity, the tepidity, the bluish color, the undulating relentlessness of the water in a pool are given at one stroke, each quality through the others. So this is of Sartre sort of a healing tendency for the fragmented left hemisphere take of Kant or Locke or any other separator, if you like. This is showing the wholeness, that the yellowness do bear the sourness. It is not a disjunct feature, neither is it a connected feature. And I think most modern people, especially here in Sweden, would deny this. They are so infatuated with the left hemisphere take. So lemon is citric acid, sugars, waters, gel, carbohydrates, starch, lignin, oily skin, citronic oil, and so forth. Those are the constitutions. And me as a viewer is separated somehow, and through my eyes, tongue, nose comes the lemon. That's the world of a person of the right hemisphere lobotomy. The things of the world are not simply neutral objects which stand before us for our contemplation. Each one of them symbolizes or recalls a particular way of behaving. Provoking in us reactions which are either favorable or unfavorable. This is why people's tastes character and the attitude they adopt to the world and to particular things can be deciphered from objects with which they choose to surround themselves. Their preferences for certain colors or the places where they like to go for walks. Claudel claims that the Chinese build rock gardens in which everything is entirely bare and dry. This mineralization of their surroundings must be interpreted as a rejection of the damp of life. As though expressing a preference for death. The objects which haunt our dreams are meaningful in the same way. Our relationship with things is not a distant one. Each speaks to our body and to the way we live. They are clothed in human characteristics, whether docile, soft, hostile, or resistant. And conversely, they dwell within us as emblems of forms of life. We either love or hate. Humanity is invested in the things of the world, and these are invested in it. To use the language of psychoanalysis, things are complexes. This is what Cézanne meant when he spoke of the particular halo of things, which it is the task of painting to capture. This is also the message of the contemporary poet Francis Ponge, whose work I shall now offer by way of example. In a study devoted to him, Sartre wrote that things lived in him for many years. They populated him. They carpeted the furthest recesses of his memory. They were present with him. And what he is trying to do now is much more to pluck these monstrous slithering flowers from his inner depths and render them than to fix their qualities on the basis of minute observations. And indeed, the essence of water, for example, and of all the elements, lies less in their observable properties than in what they say to us. This is what Ponge says of water. Water is colorless and glistening, formless and cool, passive and determined in its single vice, gravity. With exceptional means at its disposal to gratify the vice, circumvention, perforation, infiltration and erosion. The vice plays an inner role as well. Water endlessly ravels in upon itself, constantly refuses to assume any form. Tends only to self-humiliation, prostrating itself, all but a corpse, like the monks of the same orders. You might almost say that water is insane, given this obsession, this fixation, the hysterical need to obey its gravity alone. By definition, liquid is what seeks to obey gravity rather than maintain its form, forgoes all form to obey its gravity. And loses all bearing because of this fixation, these unhealthy qualms. Water's anxiety, sensitive to the slightest change of incline. Leaping downstairs 2 steps at a time. Playful, childishly disobedient, childishly obedient, returning the moment we call it back by tilting the slope this way. And I think I go to the summary here. And it goes to show that the disembodied self is a very persistent image in our Western culture. It flies above. It doesn't have a location other than purely abstract, as in the orthogonal corner of the tridimensional diagram. And in the same way we disembody ourselves, our inner life, when it disappears, takes all the qualities of the outer world with them. We get the Chinese stone garden, obedient only to death. And in this we have the modern way of anger. The left hemisphere take is infused with irritation, anger. Could it be caused by the lack of fulfilling experience, colors, and this Cézanne-like presencing as presented by Maurice Merleau-Ponty? Is that what's missing, which makes us hardened inside, longing desperately to be alive once more? I remember one of my teachers at the university one time exclaiming at a drunken dinner party how absolutely empty his life was from knowledge. That during the 40 years of intensive, hardened study, he felt completely empty inside, and the world around him lacking all difference, all iconoclasm. He had generalized out his own existence from reality. Ian McGilchrist noted this tendency in The Emissary and His Master, The Master and His Emissary, that this was something that developed already from the mid-18th century and onward. People started to complain about boredom. Boredom turned into depression and anxiety. And in the Romantic era, people desperately, I would say, tried to recapture the vividness, the colors, the life, the energy, the uniqueness of living. But I would say they never succeeded, because they were themselves fragmented. Reality itself has showed its fantastic beauty, its absolute uniqueness in a small way with quantum mechanics. This is a way of pointing once more for the first time to a living, changing, moving reality. No longer still and monetized. No longer deadened like the Chinese rock garden. Instead, damp, thrusting, veins pulsating, colors and all the qualities of the old paradigm residing in that. Nothing lost, but so immensely much more added of beauty, power, and liberation. And monetized liberty, égalité, and freedom is a generalized, non-individualized, non-real freedom. And that's what we sold our freedom for. Our lives, our individuality, our personality traits. And oddly enough, it is from this iconicity, this iconoclasm, where also generality stems. So that is also lost. Only singularity can call out plurality by not excluding it. Merleau-Ponty elegantly draws up the real world, where the subject, our inside, our wants, are the outside, in the most real way, not as projected on the outside, as in the depiction of James Locke or Kant and many others, of course, like Searle and Putnam, but living in the objects. Not being an accessory, being inside inhabiting the objects, making them come to life. And then we acquire true depth, not a generalized illusion of the schizoid patient who projects depths to a deadened world. Living in the world is being in depth. And then colors have taste, and they are food for eyes, and they are not reducible to a random process that we happen to pick involuntarily to tell what the world is about. Yes, sometime the Newtonian paradigm is correct, but we can never tell when. There is a greater world out there that we only barely manages to draw out. It's an exploration, and everything is still new. Nothing is supposed to be boring. Why would it be? It is absolutely new to us. And it's interesting, how could people be bored in the late 18th century? I can't even get around that. Must have been a mostly fantastic period to live in. So filled with change, leaving people out of their hearts, wondrous paintings, music, and exploration, curiousness still residing, the most important trait in human activity. And oddly enough, already deadened by the 18th century, when the Newtonian paradigm, through the intellectuals from the mid-18th century, been sizzling down into the bodies and life words of the people, bringing with them empty promises that we clutch onto because of our desperation for food for experience. A wondrous book. I'm looking forward continually with it. I say thank you very much and have a very pleasant afternoon. Even the wind has now resided. Turned out to quite a beautiful day.